He knocked me over. I landed on the dog bowl.
This one's wife. Did he do it? Will this impact the Sussexes? Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. Sean Diddy Combs has been charged with sex trafficking, and this provides us with much to unpack in relation to understanding more about narcissism. It provides an opportunity to understand why Combs has behaved in the way that he has, or as is alleged, the reaction to that, and also the potential impact upon this one's wife and the Prince of Pink Pancakes. Let's dive in and unravel it all. As per Iona Cleave, reporting for The Telegraph, Sean Diddy Combs has been charged with sex trafficking and racketeering and accused of presiding over an empire of sexual crimes. Such a charge, naturally, would threaten this narcissist's sense of control. If you want to understand why he is a narcissist, watch my series where he's placed under the Tudor scope. You'll find him in a playlist about Sean Combs. The music mogul engaged in a persistent and pervasive pattern of abuse towards women and other individuals. This exemplifies his need for control, the receipt of fuel, and the absence of emotional empathy. It also demonstrates the way that people are objectified. They are simply there to serve his purposes and needs. Damian Williams, the U.S. Attorney for New York Southern District, said the investigation into Combs was ongoing and that nothing is off the table in terms of charges being brought against his associates. We'll be touching on more about who his associates might be and just how far this tangled web of Combs actually reaches. Williams said the authorities would seek to keep Combs behind bars before his trial, downplaying suggestions that his safety was at risk after comparisons were drawn with the suicide of paedophile financier Jeffrey Epstein in 2019. We are concerned with anyone's safety whenever they are detained prior to trial, but I do not draw any sort of connection between Jeffrey Epstein's suicide and what may or may not happen to any other defendant, Mr. Williams said. Combs, 54, engaged in a persistent and pervasive pattern of abuse towards women and other individuals, according to an indictment unsealed on Tuesday. Detailing allegations dating back to 2009. Accordingly, we have a pervasive pattern of behaviour here, which is consistent with the behaviour of the narcissist. The indictment accuses him of abusing, threatening and coercing women for years to fulfill his sexual desires, protect his reputation, and conceal his conduct. If those allegations are made out, that's demonstrative of the need to control people, which is fundamental in the narcissist's behaviour, the necessity of ensuring that his conduct is concealed, nullification of threat to control, protection of reputation, engages, of course, also in the nullification of threat to control to that reputation, and fulfilling his sexual desires is the assertion of control and the receipt of a residual benefit. Combs had been arrested late on Monday in Manhattan, roughly 6 months after federal authorities conducting a sex trafficking investigation raided his luxury homes in Los Angeles and Miami. Over the past year, Combs has been sued by people who say he subjected them to physical or sexual abuse. Again, assertion of control, absence of emotional empathy, and the repeated lawsuits amount to a threat to his control. He has denied many of those allegations. Denial, the first line of the twin lines of the narcissistic defense. And outside the courthouse on Tuesday morning, Mark Agnifilo, his lawyer, said that Combs would plead not guilty, denial, and that he would fight like hell, defiance, to try to get his client released from custody. Of Combs, Agnifilo said, his spirits are good, he's confident. This, of course, is the delusion of the narcissist who believes that he's not done anything wrong. The indictment accuses Combs of striking, punching and dragging women on numerous occasions, use of physical violence, a base and rudimentary manipulation to assert control, throwing objects, again another rudimentary manipulation, and kicking them, and enlisting his personal assistants, security and house staff, lieutenants and coterie, to help hide it all. The indictment describes Combs as the head of a criminal enterprise engaged in or attempting to engage in activities, including sex trafficking, forced labour, interstate transportation for purposes of prostitution, drug offences, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice. Again, should all of those charges be made out, they exemplify the absence of emotional empathy that this man has, his sense of entitlement, the necessity of assertion of control, and the way that people are objectified, treated as chattels for his use. Combs, recognised as one of the most influential figures in hip-hop before a flood of allegations that emerged over the past year turned him into an industry pariah, threat to control. In November, his former girlfriend, the R&B singer Cassie, whose legal name is Cassandra Ventura, filed a lawsuit saying he had beaten and raped her for years, absence of emotional empathy, assertion of control. She accused Combs of coercing her and others into unwanted sex in drug-fueled settings. The suit was settled in one day, but months later CNN aired hotel security footage showing Combs punching and kicking Cassie and throwing her on the floor. See parts passing for that analysis. After the video aired, Combs apologised, false contrition, saying, "I was disgusted when I did it." Combs and his attorneys, however, denied similar allegations made by others in a string of lawsuits. Denial, again, nullification of threat to control. On Tuesday, Douglas Wigdor, a lawyer for Cassie, said in a statement that neither Miss Ventura nor I have any comment. Combs, the founder of Bad Boy Records, has previously faced legal trouble. In 2001, he was acquitted of charges related to a Manhattan nightclub shooting 2 years earlier that injured 3 people. Thus, matters are not looking good for P. Diddy, Sean Combs, call him what you will. And this event has upped the ante for him in terms of further threats to control by virtue of ridicule. For instance, 50 Cent has weighed in. As Eric Tedesco explains in the New York Post, 50 Cent took a shot at Sean Diddy Combs after his longtime rival was arrested on sex trafficking and racketeering charges Monday night. The Inda Club rapper, 49, posted a picture on Instagram from his appearance on the Drew Barrymore show and made a crack about the 1,000 bottles of lubricant and baby oil that were seized by Homeland Security at Combs' home back in March. "Here I am keeping good company with at the Drew Barrymore show," 50 Cent's caption began, alongside a snap of himself and Barrymore. "And I don't have 1,000 bottles of lube at the house," he added. Thus some trolling that comes from 50 Cent towards his rival. He has spent the last year trolling Combs as a consequence of the latter's numerous legal troubles. In July, before Combs' arrest, 50 Cent did an interview with The Hollywood Reporter, saying he had never attended the mogul's parties because he felt there was just an uncomfortable energy connected to it. So 50 Cent, or as he's known to his friends, Arthur Dollar, he recognised that there was something that wasn't appropriate about attendance at these parties and is speaking out about it. This is noteworthy in relation to the potential problem that exists for the Sussexes. The Power producer and actor who's making a documentary for Netflix about the sexual assault allegations against Combs also clarified that he was never friends with him despite their history of working together. Understandable that he wishes to distance himself from him. "It was mostly work. I wouldn't call it a friendship because there wouldn't be disappointment between us if we didn't speak to one another," 50 Cent said. "There's points that we work together. Jennifer Lopez actually told him he should work with me as a songwriter in the beginning, and I was around at the early stages, and he could have done my record deal at that point." Here comes a pertinent point. When asked why other celebrities haven't spoken up about Diddy, 50 Cent said, "Some of them were involved at the parties and enjoyed themselves, so they don't know what the fuck is on tape or what's not on tape, so they're not going to say anything because they might have had too much fun." Accordingly, 50 Cent recognises that, similar to the Epstein situation, that there are other people that could find themselves implicated in unpleasant and criminal behaviour. as a consequence of their attendance at the parties and their indulgences. This, of course, would be problematic, as it may well be the case that Combs, in order to try and save his own skin, would look to throw other people under the bus. That, of course, would be the typical response of a narcissist who, with his needs coming first, has no concept of loyalty for anybody else, no concept of emotional empathy for those affected by his behaviour, including dobbing in other individuals that were involved in the similar activity to him. In order to save his own skin, he'd have no hesitation in throwing other people under the bus. What 1,000 bottles of lubricant and baby oil were used for, well, I'll leave that to your imagination. It doesn't take too much to think how that might have been utilised, and also the fact that he's got such a large stock of baby oil. I don't think that he was doing it to ensure that he couldn't be caught in the event that somebody tried to grab hold of him, similar to the way that Adam Traore, the footballer, would use baby oil on his arms so that defenders struggled to get a grip on him, but rather one imagines that it was utilised for the freaky behaviour that Combs has been accused of. Thus, 50 Cent points out that there may well be plenty of other people who are sweating somewhat on what P. Diddy might have to say about them. And this is where, potentially, it could lead to a problem for the Sussexes. You'll recall back in March that a lawsuit against Sean Combs made mention of Prince Harry. The fact is, at the time, the Daily Mail broke the news that the $30 million lawsuit, which had been filed by Rodney Lil Rod Jones, mentioned Prince Harry as an example of someone whose affiliation with Combs gave him legitimacy. In the article, the Mail mentions that the prince was somebody who associated with Combs. It mentions, and it quotes the actual lawsuit, famous athletes, political figures, artists, musicians, and international dignitaries are among the groups who have associated with Combs, but it only mentioned Prince Harry by name. Naturally, there's no suggestion that Harry had any knowledge of the suit's allegations, was implicated, or is a defendant. But the fact is, there has been pictures of Harry alongside Combs and Kanye West at an after-party for the concert for Diana back in 2007. And the suggestion that he has some kind of affiliation with him could well be problematic. Combs also mentioned Harry's name in interviews with more than one UK-based outlet. He said, "I'm also hoping I'll get to catch up with Prince Harry while I'm there," i.e. in the UK. "He's such a cool guy and it's about time we hung out. I need him to take me to some of those wild Mayfair clubs." There was also the suggestion when he appeared on the talk show with Graham Norton that Combs had invited both Harry and William to his parties, and this was in 2011, but there doesn't appear that there were any future events attended by either princes post-2011. But the fact that Harry was mentioned in this lawsuit, and the fact that 50 Cent identifies that there were plenty of people that enjoyed themselves at these parties, raises a problematic spectre for the Sussexes. Now, there is no evidence whatsoever that Harry has engaged in any of the behaviours that Combs has been charged with. That's important to make that clear. But there is a suggestion there is an affiliation, and we know that Prince Harry enjoys a good time. There have also been suggestions about his poor behaviour in terms of his treatment of horses, and also the suggestion of treatment of sex workers when he was in the army. And therefore, might it be that 50 Cent's suggestion that there were plenty of people who enjoyed themselves too much at these parties could potentially point a finger at Prince Harry because of his affiliation with Sean Combs? We don't have any evidence of the depth of that affiliation. It's simply acknowledged that there was some form of association. But might Harry be one of those who could start sweating on what might come out of all of this? Might there have been an attendance at a party? Might he have indulged in activities which he'd rather the world not know about? Did he think at the time? Well, probably not, because he's not big on thinking. Of course, he may not have attended any parties. The affiliation may have just been something that Combs bragged about as a narcissist. Remember, in order to make himself look more important and by virtue of character trait acquisition, it's certainly not beyond the realms of comprehension that a narcissist would claim to have a link and affiliation with someone that he does not, and therefore Prince Harry may have been completely unfairly named. Then again, there might have been some form of affiliation, and that could lead to a problematic aspect in relation to reputational damage to Harry, and by extension, this one's wife. We simply have to wait and see what information comes out and what information is shared by Sean Combs. But as I mentioned, there is a significant risk that he'll throw others under the bus in order to save his own skin. And that could include a whole list of individuals who've attended these parties, as alluded to by 50 Cent. Accordingly, if Prince Harry was somebody that attended, he might find himself getting dragged into this maelstrom that surrounds Sean Combs. And that will cause significant reputational damage to both he and this one's wife, because of course they like to hold themselves out to the world as being a kind and whiter than white couple. And the circumstances, there could be significant problems ahead as a consequence of the association. Even if Harry hadn't indulged, the fact that he could be linked to having some involvement with Combs could also prove problematic in light of these allegations, and that he would be looking to distance himself in the way that 50 Cent has done so from Sean Diddy Combs. We'll be keeping an eye on these developments. Not only does it help you understand more about Combs' behaviour and the way that a narcissist treats other people, but also it has the potential for there to have an impact upon the Sussexes. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.